habang tumatagal, the longer I look at this people's initiative, the more I am inclined to believe na pinagplanuhan talaga tayo. Halimbawa, back in January, sinabi na ni Senator Amy na mayroong Project PI. Meron siyang natanggap na text detailing a timeline for Project PI. So, may timeline, major activities, 15 December to January 3, prepare petition, print proposition, and signature sheets. Alam natin, base dun sa mga lumitaw dun sa Facebook, is that by December 20-ish to 28, lumilitaw na yan sa Facebook yung mga signature sheets na yan. But even before that, early in December, merong speech si Speaker Martin Romualdez detailing na iaamyendahan daw yung saligang batas to a constituent assembly, pero before that, babaguhin muna yung saligang batas para nang sa gayon ang uandal ay Kongreso. We will do that, sabi niya, voting jointly will do that through a people's initiative. So, lumabas yung speech na yun first week of December. And so, yung timeline, di ganun kalayo. Sabi ni Senator Amy, February 12 until March 10, mag-verify ng signatures. And sa totoo lang, before nagreklamo si Senate President Mig Zubiri, umariba na. And by the time it came to the first week of February, almost 8 million na po ang signatures. So, pumapasok siya dun sa timeline, more or less, no? Hindi ganun ka-eksakto, but then, alam natin na medyo late sila nag-umpisa. But by early February, and until about 2 weeks ago, we know that they already achieved the 8 million signatures. Yun nga lang, marami nang nag-question kung bakit gano'n, merong mga ayuda na kaakibat, merong iba mga lumilitaw na videos of misinforming yung mga hinihinga ng signatures. Yung iba ay, yun na nga, sinasabihan na magre-release ng 20 million kada barangay and so on. Meron pa ngang mga questions about whether or not the barangay should be involved in a people's initiative. Discussion yan na legal. So, ang timeline verifies it. So, ang plebiscite ha, take note of the wording. Sabi plebiscite, hindi referendum. Ang nasa batas ng 6735 ay referendum. Ano yung difference? Pag plebiscite, yes or no lang. Pag referendum, hihimayin yung provisions at pwedeng hiwalay yun, di ba? Yung voting jointly at saka on the call. Pero, ang plano was plebiscite. So, ibig sabihin yes or no lang talaga. Di tayo bibigyan talaga ng choice at hindi i-discuss nun. It will not appear in the same way or it could appear in the same way as the way the signature sheets were worded. Kasi parang yes or no lang naman talaga yon. So, ang referendum is more detailed. So, kunwari, referendum, several provisions of the Constitution, i-amend this, and this. Pag plebiscite, yes or no lang. So, and it was originally supposed to be scheduled on June 17, which would be certified and approved by the COMELEC by July 8. Anong mga implications nito? Well, naaalala nyo, meron tayong pinag-usapan na formula that we referred to as the GMA formula. If meron yata silang binabantayan na 2-year period wherein if the presidency is challenged and the vice president goes up to the position of president, if it was after the 2-year period, then the vice president who becomes president can still run for another term. So, this is all theoretical underscore ha, kasi ibabash na naman ako ng mga yan. So, ang sinasabi ko dito is, it coincides with the possibility that they're keeping an eye out on that formula also. So, tingnan nyo, by July 8, majority of the conduct of the plebiscite on June 17 and certification of approval of the proposal by July 8. Which means that by 2025, kapag nag-eleksyon ulit tayo, iba na po ang form of government. Ayan. So, because kung ma-certify at i-approve yung plebiscite na ito, almost immediately magkakaroon ng constituent assembly. During that constituent assembly, they can move to change the form of government. So they can permanently remove the Senate and create a unicameral body. And in time for the 2025 elections, maaari na silang magboboto for in a parliamentary system. And we will have a prime minister by 2025. So yun yung dapat itinatandaan natin. This is the reason kung bakit nung umpisa, so balikan natin, nung umpisa, hindi umaamin ang pirma na sila ang may pakana doon sa signature sheets. sometime in January, lumabas yung ads. Early January yata or late December. Hi kay Ma'am Annie. So early in the year, lumabas yung mga ads called EDSA Puera. But before that, di ba, yung kay Speaker Martin, and then after that, yung lumabas na yung signature sheets. At nung kasagsagan na, kasagsagan na ng pagpipirma, lumabas naman yung ads. At base dun sa ads, in-interview yung mga lawyers ng pirma. At nandun yun sa TikTok page ko. In-interview yung lawyers ng pirma at sinabi nila they have nothing to do with the signature sheet. Ulitin ko, they have nothing to do with the signature sheet. Ang purpose ng mga ads ay para maghikayat ng diskusyon ukol sa pagbabago o pag-aamyenda sa saligang batas. Pero ang laki naman masyadong coincidence na magkasabay sila. No? Later on, nung nagkaroon na nga late in January ng hearing on the proposed on People's Initiative, chaired by Senator Jaime, lumabas na nga ang pirma at inako na nila na sila. Bakit sila nag-lie muna? In fact, in one interview, sinabi ni Attorney Alex Abisado, hindi pa daw nila pwedeng sabihin kung sino ang may, kung related sila doon sa signature campaign. As it turns out, dahil nga lumabas in the Senate hearing yung kakulangan nila dun sa registration nila sa SEC, meron na kumbaga, walang corporate personality na ang pirma. Ang pirma was actually an organization duly organized under Philippine laws and duly filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission before 2004. Pero dahil hindi nagagamit at dahil tumigil sila ng mga activities nila, in 2004, nag-issue ng certificate of non-use or certificate of revocation ng kanilang corporate personality. So, why would pirma undertake a signature campaign nung wala pa silang corporate personality? Kasi ang mga transactions require that. Bakit kailangan ng ganun? Because you will be accepting donations. Diba? Magta-transact kayo. Bibili kayo ng ads. Bibili nga kayo ng kung anik-anik. You will hold meetings. May mga taong i-hire kayo. Pero wala pa silang corporate personality at the time. So, paano umandar? Paano yung mga transaksyon? So, ang lumalabas ay yung mga transaksyon ay through Mr. Oñate. So si Mr. Oñate naman, inako niya lahat. Siya nagbayad ng ads, tumanggap ng donations, nag-organize, met with the speaker, and so on. So bakit nila inumpisahan even without a corporate personality? Kasi nagmamadali sila. Bakit sila nagmamadali? Because of the timeline. The timeline indicated that they would have to have a plebiscite by June 27, by July 8. And the certification of the COMELEC should be out by June 27. Pero yung problema, nagkaroon nga ng Senate investigation at bista-bistado na itong timeline na ito. Pero, napansin niyo, in spite of the meeting between Senator Zubiri, the President, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez, in spite of the hearings dun sa Senado, ay tumutuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pirma dun sa kanilang Charter Change Initiative, sa People's Initiative. Bakit? Kailangan po nilang mag-stick to the timeline pa rin. Kasi invested na sila. Bukod pa dito, meron na silang mga risks that were undertaken. And one of those risks, nakita natin in the last Senate hearing, ay itong AKAP. Now, AKAP is the most dangerous provision, the most dangerous thing that Senator Jaime or the committee has opened up. Kasi ito na po ang paggamit ng public funds. Doon sa iba, maaari mo pang sabihin na wala namang public funds involved, umariba kami, hindi pa naman tinatanggap ng COMELEC, and so on, no harm, no foul. May kinolect ng mga signatures, pero kung ma-shutdown yan, wala namang mananagot, walang krimen, walang kahit ano. But, once we're talking about AKAP, this is where pumapasok ang public funds. Dito na magkakaroon ng issues not just about violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, but also possible plunder. Yeah? Posible ang malversation, technical malversation, posible ang mga, in addition to that, nakapag-prepare ang Kongreso ng miraculous amount of 12 billion para sa COMELEC for the conduct of elections, plebiscites, referenda, etc. Napakalaking coincidence naman yon na nakapaghanda sila ng pera para magamit ng COMELEC just in case magkaroon ng plebisito. May galing ng bolang kristal nila. Na-predict nila na magkakaroon ng People's Initiative na posibleng mga ilangan ng plebiscite o referendum. So, yan. So, all of it is falling into place. So, ang framework natin ngayon is the timeline na nilabas ni Senator Amy early pa lang, mid-January, before pa siya nagpatawag ng Senate investigation. So itong mga nagsasabi din na bakit pinabayaan ninyo, bakit hindi kayo kumibo about itong insertion, nung January, ito yung sinabi ni Senator Amy. Oops, wait, ito. It was quoted in CNN, wala na yung CNN website, but it was also reprinted in the national policy. So, ito, sabi niya, may addition, 14 billion pala ang inad dun sa budget ng COMELEC. So, wala siyang alam din dun sa budget ng COMELEC kasi sinabi niya, siya yung head ng Committee on Electoral Reform. So, hindi dumaan sa Senado yan. Sa madaling sabi, isa pa yan dun sa mga singit. Sabi niya, wala man binabanggit na charter change doon sa budget. So, sabi niya, I'm really puzzled because I wasn't privy to the BICAM. So, kailan pa to sinabi? January, di maliwanag itong oras dito. January 13 or 12. Sabi niya, truth be told, I haven't been attending the BICAM because they are like 2-minute photo ops and no real debate is conducted. Okay, so maliwanag yan. Even before, di siya umattend ng BICAM at nagulat na nga siya dun sa 14 billion na siningit using again her signature which was given after the Senate deliberations on the GAA. So, ito yung anong ko nga Alam nyo kung hindi nila ginawa itong People's Initiative na ine-etsipwera nila ang Senado, tumuloy-tuloy ito na hindi natin nalalaman. Kaya talagang up in arms ang Senado is because nakikita na nila na parang fini-phase out na sila. So as early as mid-year this year or by August or so on, kung sakasakaling patuloy ang People's Initiative na yan at magawa nila ng paraan para majority ang bumoto for the voting jointly and at based on the call of either the Senate President or Speaker of the House, by next year, wala nang Senado. Okay. In January, early January, at that time, nung nagpa-interview pa si Senator Amy, ang sabi niya is her brother was not keen on Chacha. So as far as we all knew, even the President was reiterating his position na hindi priority ang pagbabago ng saligang batas. So, what does this also say about the whole proceedings? Now, this was being conducted in secret. Now, I'm not sure if the President actually knew or didn't, pero once he had been made publicly aware of this, ang iniintay natin ay reaction. And so he did react. At sinabi niya, o sige, ganito na lang. Ang sabi niya sa Senado, o ganito na lang. Let's stick to the economic provisions o maggawa kayo ng mga resolution and so on. And so, inassume ng Senado na hindi na po matutuloy ang People's Initiative. But what happened was, pinasa nga yung mga resolution at i-discuss nga, magkakaroon nga daw ng Constituent Assembly, pero tumuloy-tuloy pa rin ang People's Initiative. And so what does this mean? Either may sumusuway sa Presidente or the President by either negligence or tolerance is saying na sige, tuloy nyo pa rin yan. Hindi ako makikialam. So anong ibig sabihin nito? In general, what we need to watch out for is that tuloy-tuloy pa rin itong initiative na ito. So tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang mga pangyayaring ito. Bakit? Because they have an eye out. Tinitingnan nila, they are really so suspicious kasi doon sa sa mga real or imagined political enemies nila. Ito lang ang masasabi ko about that. In 2022, until 3 or 4 months after, walang real enemies na politicians ang administrasyon na ito. Solid ang House. Medyo solid ang Senado. Pero ang nakikita natin doon, hindi significant yung mga Duterte-associated politicians. And most of them were fully 100% committed to the Marcos administration. So, what started to change? Ganito yon. The Marcos administration, and there's no way to say this other than this way, out and out, has always been suspicious of the Dutertes. Kahit walang ginagawa, kahit fully committed si Vice President Inday Sara sa Marcos administration, kahit wala silang ginagawa, may suspicion emanating from the core of Malacanang. And they were always afraid na baka gumalaw. They were afraid, particularly because GMA, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, is associated with Inday Sara, Vice President Inday Sara. And they have always and consistently worried that GMA might spring a trap the same way that she took power as president years ago. So, with this in mind, alam natin na itong mga ganitong plano, charter change and so on, to maintain a hold on power has always been in their plans. from the start yan, nasa plano nila, which would explain kung bakit yung mga Duterte appointees maagang tinanggal. Tapos kahit mga plantilla who were appointed in the former administration are looked on with suspicion. Now it's not yeah, it's not an accident that they have been removed. That is how this government has been working, at least since October or November of 2020. Before that, hindi masyadong issue. Okay. Magtatanggal lang po ako ng clause. Ayan. Sabi ni Jackie Tinkerbell, the buck stops with the president, and I agree. Bakit tuloy-tuloy pa din ang PI na yan, walang sumusunod sa kanya? So, well, the question now nga is a question of leadership when it comes to the president. It's possible na either weak yung leadership niya, which I disagree, or he's in on it. And he just wants plausible deniability, and he doesn't want to be blamed for this. So he takes the safest path, which is to say nothing and do nothing, and let forces take on a life of their own. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? For me, it's politics. So you want to maintain your hold on power, you have to be vague about your answers, vague about your position. That way, nobody can tell where you really are. Unfortunately, yung where you really are, napupuntirya naman natin sa galawan ni Speaker Lumalabas and other allies na ganon. Sabi ni Reg, naglabas ng 1.2 billion ang DBM for free fare sa carousel bus program for the month of November and December last year. Wala pong free pamasahe. Commuters didn't experience the free ride. Where did the 1.2 billion go? That's actually a good question. See, let's look into that. But that's a very good observation. Di ko nakita yan. So thank you kay Rose Laman. Thank you kay Jifeng kasi sinishare niya yung live. At kay Ma'am Sinaida. Ayan. Ako, maraming salamat dun sa mga nasa TikTok. Hindi man kayo makakomment, panay pa rin ang padala niya ng gifts at sa pag-share. Maraming salamat po. So, ang sinasabi lang natin is what we're using here is simple logic. Ito yung timeline na nilabas ni Senator Amy. And we assume that the timeline is true because so many of that has already happened. Now, what we're extrapolating from here is what is the intent. And so we can only use that intent by relating it to certain facts. Fact, GMA is associated with the Vice President or was associated with the Vice President. GMA has been a target of House Speaker Martin Romualdez, not once but twice. And they know that part of the strength of the former president is her ability to machinate. She's a good politician and knows how to move things and to move people. She was able to maintain her hold, tenuous as it may be, on power for 9 years. Okay? So she is a formidable opponent. And so it wasn't a surprise that in order to weaken her allies, kumbaga, kailangan i-target si former President GMA. But they also have an eye on that formula. Ganito yun eh. Whether or not it happens, it's simple. It is a fact of history na ganyan ang nangyari. They would not be very smart if they did not take this into consideration. Kasi ito yung mangyayari after we say this. Lalabas ang mga trolls. Sasabihin nila, intrigera yan. Naniniwala yan kay Maharlika and so on. So they're going to try to discredit this. But in the end, these are facts. This is how GMA got into power. This is how the Supreme Court ruled in that case. Right? These are how things look. And the other fact is that the Dutertes remain a strong brand. Right? And as time goes by, the strong showing, the strong support for the president and his allies are being eroded. So what would you do when you see your support being eroded? When you see the strength of your opponents whom you have suspected from day one or whom you have made an enemy of from day one. Diba? Ginawa mo na silang enemy, and I say that with enough support to indicate that. So, you consider these your political opponents. Political lang, di naman natin sinasabing may personalan dyan. Of course, pwede rin may personalan. But as political opponents, itong mga to ang ang tatabla sa iyo later on. In every election, it is the Dutertes who remain the strongest to challenge whatever it is that whatever positions, whatever policies that this administration will set up. So in the next elections, my I don't doubt that this administration will be looking towards them and their allies, and yun ang isa-strategize nila. They will strategize against any of the Duterte allies or allied forces or allied personalities to be able to gain seats in government. Ito yung masaya dyan. It's no longer about government. Now, because sinusolid nila lahat. Sobrang solid yung Congress, di ba? They only made enemies of the Senate. Pero within the Senate, hindi tayo sure. Are they still pro-Marcos? Or if pag naamoy nila na yung administration is really the one behind the phasing out of the Senate and the senators, baka magbago na naman ang dynamics within government. Okay, thank you kay Techniques of Automation and Member siya. Okay? So ito yung laban ngayon. So, hindi na siya sikreto. It is, ever since the Davao Prayer Rally, hindi na sikreto, nilabas na ni former President yan. Pero it has been an open secret in government since last year that they have always been worried and kumbaga have considered Okay, sa iPhone tumawag yan. Hala? Ayun, sorry, nawala. May tumawag eh. Pasensya na po. Okay. They have always been worried. So now it is, tapos may mga nagsasabi dyan, they're trying to prevent that conversation by saying na, pamilya lang ang politika natin, Marcos versus Duterte naman ngayon. Actually, sino ba ang may pakana niyan? Sino ang nagsuspecha? At the time na wala, very and fully committed si Vice President Inday Sara to this administration. Si former President Duterte was simply being quiet, enjoying his retirement and so on. And then, gumalaw ang Kongreso. Gumalaw si Speaker Martin. Ayan na yung KGMA, ayan na yung so on. And sunod-sunod na siya. Now, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Hindi na. Andyan na. Na-declare na-consider na open warfare na ito. Or at least they're pretending that it's not, but it is. Sabi ni Ma'am Christine, extreme ang insecurity. If they just work, we'd sing praises to their genius and stay loyal. I guess masyado mahirap magtrabaho para sa tamad. Grabe. Well, but I agree, no? Ang walang rhyme or reason eh. Kasi, let's look at appointments muna. Who are the appointees? Are the appointees really working? Or are the appointees really qualified? What are their successes in recent, let's say in the last month or so? Ano yung mga pwede nating sabihin na success? Huwag na lang sasabihin na it is, it's things like inflation and so on. A lot of that isn't their doing. Because, sige, bumaba ang inflation, pero so much of the behavior of the costs, kumbaga, have not been following it. Mababa ang inflation, mahal ang pagkain, mahal ang bigas. Hindi inasikaso ang sistema ng agrikultura. Bakit? Di pinuntirya na nila yung logistics. A single stick na ginawang warehouse ang gobyerno. Gobyerno hindi private sector, para sikasuhin ito. Diba? Another thing that we should be wary of is the continuing oppression or suppression of free speech. At dito, ginagawang, how do we call this? Ginagawang through technology, not through people. If they're smart, hindi nila pamumukhang oppressed yung mga tao. Unfortunately, they're not that smart. So, lumabas ang mga kongresista para atakihin ang SMNI and remove their franchise, thinking that they can compare SMNI with ABS-CBN and say, bakit yung ABS-CBN naman, ginawa ni Duterte yan, etc. But they did not count on this. There are people who actually see the difference. Okay? ABS-CBN was applying for a new franchise. They did not have one or theirs was going to expire. SMNI has a franchise and therefore were entitled to due process. Doon sa hinihingi ng ABS-CBN, pwedeng walang dahilan. Yoko lang sa mukha mo. Goodbye. Pero instead, they actually had a process pa. Okay, so ayan may mga lumalabas na mga trolls at sinasabi, kapal ng mukha mo para sabihin mo yan tungkol kay BBM. If you will take note, wala pa po akong sinasabi tungkol kay BBM. I talk about his leadership, I talk about the fact that it's possibly either a weak leadership or a very quiet one, a very secretive one. And those are not, although they're not compliments, they're not insults either. Ayan, Yan. So, maganda yan. Like I said, predictably, the trolls will be out. Right now, hindi sila kasi ready for what the arguments are. So now, what I'm saying is these arguments, based on the information that Senator Amy has brought out, that other sources have brought out, there is a timeline and they are trying to comply with that timeline. Ngayon, meron din silang sinasabi, it's too late to stop the PI na. Ayaw nilang mag-commit, it's too late na raw to stop it. And yet, it can still be stopped because wala namang petition dun sa COMELEC. Instead, they are waiting. And ang linchpin dito is the COMELEC. Kasi ang sinasabi ng COMELEC, pagkaharap si Senadora Amy, hindi daw sila naniniwala na may batas, na tama yung batas, pero it was the previous administration that made the IRR resolution number 10650 and so on. Parang, oo, tingin namin, hindi naman talaga kasi yung malinaw naman daw yung sa Supreme Court. And yet, it is the same Chairman Garcia, who was also saying that the Supreme Court abandoned the ruling in Santiago versus COMELEC. Okay. Sabi ni Maria Victoria Reyes Lacuesta, ang hirap din talaga kung dati medyo nakakaahon ng mga tao ngayon below poverty line na talaga sa mahal ng bilihin. Correct. Sabi ni Popoy, we have to remember that we the people have given them the mandate. We put them in position. The main power of a democratic country is the voice of the people. Thank you, Attorney. Correct. So what is the difference between a democratic and a Republican state? And by the way, we are both. So a Republican state acts through their representatives, Republican, diba? And a democratic state goes by direct votes. We directly vote for the president, but we also vote for representatives in the House and in the Senate who will make laws for us. So a democratic and Republican state. But the thing about a democracy is that the direct vote, the direct voice of the people should and ought to be heard. Okay. Okay, so we need to watch out for the few things in order to identify who the trolls are. Why am I saying we have to identify who the trolls are? This is important because many of them are funded by government. And why is the government funding trolls in order to bash private citizens? This is a sign of oppression. Pero oppression na nagkukunwari pa sila. Kunwari, private na tao yung galit sa atin. Pero yung totoo nun are fueled by a government or an administration or public officials. Okay? I'm waiting for somebody to challenge me on that one, but we will time it. Tumpak po kayo dyan, sabi ni Salvi Suarez. Diniscuss nyo na po ito noong nakaraan yung vlog sa strategy ni FBGMA. Kaya sila nagmamadali. Yung totoo yan. But we know that they have been planning this not just recently. It's been since day one. Ito yung problema. That natatakot sila to let go of the Vice President. But this is my opinion. Why? Because as long as the Vice President is still with the administration, then a lot of us will still retain the confidence that in the administration, that things are well, that the president is okay. Sabi ni Ma'am Annie, ayaw ko talaga mag-compare. Panahon ni Tatay Digong, napaka-busy ng lahat ng departamento. Ngayon, puro lang maganda sa balita, walang na-feel ang mga tao. Correct. Sabi ni John, the problem with some kongresistas is pinapalabas nila na mga tao ang gusto ng PI even though yung mga pumirma walang alam sa pinirmahan nila. Nang masyadong hassle na para sa kanila para bawiin nagpirma sila. Madaling pumirma, hassle bawiin. And this is one of those things. Sabi ni, one of those things na ito yung the problem, this is one of those things that are eroding the support for the administration. Nawawala ng tiwala ng mga tao dahil nga may ganito at alam natin na minamadali nila. And we know na kapag minamadali, mayroong tinatago. So ano kaya itong tinatago nila? So ang tingin ko dyan, yes, tama yung sinasabi, yung teorya ng dating Duterte still holds water. Kasi ang sinasabi niya is, the reason for this kind of charter change is isa lang, perpetuation in power. Ang dami pong mga excuses na kaya tinatabla sila ng Senado, hindi daw na-amend ang Constitution dahil sa Senado, and so on. Teka muna, diba? And yet, may nagreklamo, umalsa ba tayo? May nakikita ba tayong maraming tao nagre-reklamo tungkol sa fact na hindi masyadong nababago yung saligang batas? If you crawl, and this is what the government is well aware of what the people are thinking, kasi trabaho yan ng press secretary, trabaho yan ng communications office, is to know what people are thinking in order to address the issues. that are foremost in their minds. So government knows what we're thinking, and they are doing things in spite of what we're thinking. Sabi ni AJ ko, if all these things will lead to BBM, sapat ba ito impeach BBM, Martin Romualdez, the secretaries na involved at mga kongresista na kasali dito, taxpayer po ako na nagpaparko. Only BBM is impeachable in the list that you gave. Speaker Martin Romualdez is voted, is elected on by other congressmen. So, and he also has a direct mandate from the people of Leyte, from his district in Leyte. So, hindi po siya impeachable official, and neither are the cabinet secretaries. Only the president can be impeached, vice president. So, you're asking if there is sufficient evidence. Well, tignan niyo yung grounds. Yung grounds kasi for impeachment must be the level ng high crime. So, graft and corruption, disloyalty to the Constitution, ay, ano ba yan? Yung when he fails to uphold the Constitution and so on. So, dapat mapigil yung ano. So, dito, what we need, para sa akin, hindi pa enough. But, we have to keep an eye out. Hindi pa ako ganun kasold, ha? Kasi kailangan pa natin tignan in relation to other acts. What we need is to know what those other acts are. So, we need more information. Sabi ni Amelita, patuloy po nilang inaatake ang mga Duterte dahil pang malayo ang isip ng mga tao sa tunay na suliranin ng bayan. Yun nga, and yun nga po yung ever since, and then I'm so happy and proud na pareho kami ng iniisip ni dating Pangulo. Kasi dun sa Davao Rally, sinabi niya talaga, yung daming problema ng bayan, uunahin ninyo charter change and the perpetuation of yourselves in power. So we've said that even before. Di ba? Ang mantra natin, pagkain, kuryente, tubig, transportation, and everything else, internet, ang dami nating problema. Hindi natin nakikita gumagalaw yung mga issues doon o meron ginagawa ang ating mga magigiting na government officials about these things. And yet, ang bilis-bilis sumulong ng People's Initiative na yan. Sabi ni Ma'am Karen, bakit kasi sumusuporta pa si Sara sa gobyernong ito na solid 32 million behind her after the deceptive PI at expose ng tatay niya? Sabi niya mahal niya ang Pilipinas, but look what Lisa and Lumalabas are doing sa bansa with the tolerance of weak Marcos. Okay? Dapat kasuhan ni Digong at Amy lahat ng congressman behind PI for graft and theft, malversation, whatever it may be. Sarah knows the majority are behind her, pero what is she doing na alam niyang mali na ang nangyayari? Sabi sa rumors, tatanggalan daw ni Romualdez ang, I don't know, nabitin po yung message ninyo. Sabi ni Nila, yung nililihis sa mga issues na napakadami. Ma'am, hindi po nililihis yung mga issues. I guarantee you, totoo lahat ng mga issues. Lahat hindi nangyayari. Lahat kulang. Kumbaga, hindi ina-address. Kuryente, tubig, pagkain, and so on. Wala, hindi yan ina-address. Yung drug test nga, late na yan dumating. Hindi pa rin na-address yung pagkain, yung tubig nagmahal, yung kuryente nagmahal, ang internet, expect nyo, magmamahal pero babagal pa rin or hindi pa rin masyadong maaayos ang serbisyo nito. Ang transportation, ayan, lumalabas na yung issues, pinondohan pala ng ilang bilyon yung para may libreng pamasahe, hindi pala nagamit. Now, assuming totoo tong mga to, yung sa drug test issue yan, dagdag po yan. So, ang dami-dami na nga pong issue, yun yung problema. Ang daming issue ng administrasyon na ito. So, kailangan din natin tignan. Bakit hindi napapansin yung mga issues na ito or hindi sila nakikinig dun sa mga issues na ito? Busy nga po sila. Sabi ni Saldi, nabasa ko kahapon sa PNA na schedule na naman si Kuting biyaheng Australia at Europe. Talagang hilig mag-travel. Well, it's also possible na merong mga plausible deniability. Halimbawa, kung tumuloy-tuloy kaya yung People's Initiative na yan, well, he's out of the country, pwede niya sabihin, wait, hindi ko to alam. I was out of the country. Ito, ito. Gamit na gamit talaga kahit wala na yung PI na yan. Sino may sabing wala na yung PI? Okay? Sino nagsabi nun? Kahit wala, hindi pa nag-acquire ng jurisdiction ang COMELEC. So how can you say wala na yung PI na yan? Samantalang inamin nila in the Senate investigation na you can't put the genie back in the pot. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Di ba? Hindi pwedeng isoli. Wala na, nandyan na yan. Itutuloy na nila yan. So yung mga nagsasabi ng ganyan, it is very clear that either you are uninformed about what is going on or that you prefer to ignore certain facts that are staring you in the face. Because the COMELEC has not acquired jurisdiction. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa pwedeng magsalita officially ang COMELEC kasi wala pa yung petition sa kanila. Signatures pa lang. At hindi rin muna sila tatanggap ng mga signatures at saka ng petition kasi hindi na yung IRR. Now, what if biglang babago yung IRR by tomorrow, tapos pumasok yung petition? What if immediately after that, tanggapin nila yung petition and mag-set sila within 90 days ng plebiscite? Who's going to stop that? Nothing. Nothing stops that from happening right now. So yun ang sinasabi ko, no person can say na tapos na, hindi na issue. Issue ang PI because there is no ruling. There is no order from any authority telling it to stop. Naintindihan nyo? So yung mga fake news na ganyan, wala ng PI. That's pure unadulterated horse manure. Sinasabi ko sa inyo. What they don't want to happen is for us to continue talking about PI because right now it presents a danger to us. And that danger is that we will be hostage by certain families for generations to come. Once baguhin nila yung sistema, it will be there forever. So ngayon, naiintindihan nyo na. Remember before, may mga tao na nag-bash kay dating Pangulong Duterte at sinasabi, inabando na niya yung parliamentary, inabando na niya yung federalism. Hindi po. He put it on hold indefinitely because maraming problema. And this issue with the parliamentary system is one of those things, one of those reasons kung bakit hindi niya tinuloy. May danger. May danger yung federalism. Meron tayong insurgency na hindi pa tapos. Although we had made great strides in it. Ang laki na ng nabawas sa insurgency and yet nandyan pa rin sila. Kung bigla tayong mag-federalism, all these very things, itong napakaliit na puwersa ng mga NPA, sasama-sama lang sila, targetin nila yung pinaka-weakest state and suddenly they have their own country. Hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin sumasagot dun sa issue na yan at yan ang nakita ni dating Pangulong Duterte. Nakita din niya dito sa parliamentary and I must admit that I was sold on parliamentary systems. But I had two questions. Number one, how do you change the government in a parliamentary system? In most other countries, they do it out of public pressure. Pero dito, na may makakapal na mukha ng mga politiko na who can afford to say, bingi-bingi ako, hindi ko naririnig yung mga yan. How do we get them to change the government? We can't. Okay? Or at least wala pang nagpapropose na mayroon silang paraan to ensure that pag ayaw na ng mga tao dito sa mga officials, ay mababago sila. Sabi ni Techniques, automation, confirmation by denial, confirmation by silence. Saldi says wala pa pong nasolve si PBBM sa kanyang mga mandate sa mamamayang Pilipino. Arnel, sabi niya, di po ba malinaw kung ano babaguhin ng Constitution? What do you mean by that? Your sentence or your question is incomplete. Ano ang babaguhin? Like what? Hindi po. That's why debates are necessary. That's why discourse is necessary. At bago pa yan umakyat sa isang constituent assembly or constitutional convention, aware na ang mga tao kung ano yung mga issues. So, unfortunately, hindi po yun ang nangyayari. Sabi ko, boy, tama ka, hindi basta magpalit ng form of government. Kailangan pag-aralan muna ng mabuti, maintindihan ng mga tao. Correct. Besides, we're going about it all wrong. Ang sinasabi nila, hindi kailangan natin ng ganito. Tingnan nyo, kahit sa economic provisions, hindi nila dinidiscuss ang mga detalye. Sinasabi lang nila, we need this to encourage foreign direct investments. What exactly is there in advertising and in education to encourage foreign direct investments? Bakit po yun ang ginagawa nating pagbabago? Wala naman nagkikayat sa pagbabago na iyon. At alam natin, culturally dangerous yan. So, ano pa? Diba, sino ba ang nagsabi? Kahit na nga silang batas, pero gusto pa rin nila baguhin ang saligang batas to ensure na maging permanente yung mga batas nila. So, it's not enough for them, ha? Ito yung sinasabi nila, kailangan nasa saligang batas para hindi madali baguhin. And now, gusto nilang baguhin yung saligang batas para ilagay yung batas na ginawa nila dun sa saligang batas para hindi madali baguhin. Do you see the irony here? Sabi nila, ang problema yung economic provisions nasa saligang batas. And therefore, hindi madali baguhin. Kailangan tanggalin yan para madali baguhin. And now, gusto nilang ilagay yung ginawa nilang batas sa saligang batas para hindi madali baguhin. Aloka kayo or unless otherwise provided by law. You know how dangerous those provisions are unless otherwise provided by law. It means pagka tinopak sila, gusto nilang ganito mangyari, sila na lang ang gagawa. Kiber sa Constitution, kiber dun sa mga guidelines and standards and doctrines that are set in the Constitution, which are results of years and years and years of study and of Supreme Court decisions. Ano yung sinasabi ng iba dito? Chine-check ko po yung mga ano, para doon sa mga nanonood sa atin sa TikTok, hindi lang po pasensya because hindi ko talaga makontrol. Some days merong comments ang hindi subscribers and other days wala po. So as soon as I find out, I figure out how to do this, then makakapag-komento na every time tayo mag-live. In the meantime, kung gusto niyo mag-komento, naka-live din po kami sa aming YouTube at saka Facebook pages. Ito sabi ni Naku, pasensya na po kasi may mga tumatawag na hindi ko maintindihan. Meron yata talagang mga ano, at walang mga pangalan yung mga tumatawag. So clearly somebody is trying to undermine us here. Oh, meron pong gustong ano, it's the same. Meron pong nag-i-interrupt talaga, sinasadya yung interruptions na ito. Ulitin ko ha, pasensya na po. Sinasadya po yung mga interruptions na ito. Merong mga tumatawag sa akin na hindi ko lang pangalan yung mga numbers at ini-interrupt yung live natin. Kanina pa po ito. Sabi ni Ma'am Jo, wala silang mabanggit kung ano sa economic provisions ang dapat baguhin. Anong babaguhin? Mostly naayos na sa Public Services Act. Agree. Sabi ni John Wise, para sa akin, tama lang ginagawa ni VP Sara na di sumali pa sa issue dahil sa lahat ng kapalpakan na nakikita sa admin na to, si Vice mas nakikita ang kabutihan na nagagawa sa DepEd. Well, I agree naman with that one. Sabi ni Ma'am Gina, yes, they're trying to undermine us. Ignore lang, just go on with your discussion. Maraming salamat. So, ito sabi ni Jove, sana i-change to federal. Ayan na naman, na lang para minsan na upang di na hiwalay ang Mindanao. Sir Jove, hindi kayo nakikinig, ano? Kanina pa namin dinidiscuss kung bakit si Presidente Duterte mismo ang nagsabing wag na. Sabi ni Paningit, yung signature na yan, parang pumirma sila ng blank piece of paper yung mga tao. Pirma muna, tapos bahala na sila sa content later. Correct. Yan yung sinasabi na. Same with the IR of the COMELEC. Sabi ni Tomasco, DP Sara will not resign. Being DepEd Secretary, she will have first-hand info of this administration kasi officially part pa of the family siya. She cannot be fired by BBM because BBM is if he fires Inday, he will be damned darned also when Sara resigns. VP is playing her cards well. She is indeed her father's daughter. Sabi ni AJ, mas stop ba ang PI? At kung papalitan ng sundalo, ang Malacanang, uy grabe, bakit may sundalo na tayong pinag-uusapan? Teka muna, mas stop ng taong bayan ng PI? Well, yes, may grounds naman po para i-question dito sa Korte Suprema. Pero magagawa lang po natin yan kapag tinanggalan ng elective petition. Magkakaroon na ng jurisdiction at meron na tayong target na government agency na maaari natin pigilan. At sabihan natin na, ano ba to? Na you can't continue with that. Sabi ni Antonio Panilagaw, gusto sa mga Marcos na habang buhay sila mamuno sa Pinas kasi ang paraan sa Marcos Sr. 20 years di marshal ang Pinas para lang makakorupsyon sa Pinas kasama ang mga cronies. Sabi ni Doran, I feel too much aggressive to listen if attorney get mad. Go ahead. Sorry naman po. Hindi nga ako galit ngayon. Ano ba? This is me being calm. Okay, so, sabi ni Carlos, attorney baka kaya hindi sila nakikinig dahil nakafocus sila sa PI. Yan ang pinaka-goal nila para maisakatuparan ng mga pangarap nila. Kumbaga, ang iniisip ko dito ay santabi muna lahat. Lahat ng government resources, time, and all of that and effort will be moving towards a form of government where they can stay much, much longer. Sabi ni Mel, I think hotlist ka sa mga trolls these days, attorney, lalo na sa sunod-sunod pong interviews. Oh yes, I'm quite aware of that. And marami pong marami pong gustong manakit, kumbaga. Sabi, kung this family, difference kay PRD and BBM, at least time ni PRD, alam natin anong constitution ang ito. Alam mo, ang galing mo. Hindi sa totoo lang, that's an excellent point. Na ito kasi, hindi na natin alam kasi ang pinapabago nila is gawing mas powerful ang Kongreso. And then once Congress has that power, bahala na sila. Tama yon, blank piece of paper, tapos bahala na. Sabi ni Facebook user, mahilig silang manlinlang tulad ng nangyari sa AKAP, nanlinlang sila ang Senado basta pirma dyan. Sila magaling, mga manluloko, dapat di binuboto mga yan. Sabi ni Gegi, happy new weekend to all newbies. Miss Trixie. Hi Kay, sa inyo po. Hi Kay Manny, sabi niya, takbo po kayo Congresswoman by party list. Kasi marami dyan sa kamara, dunungan lang, ang sunod lang sa Agos. Yeah, but you know, when you're in the administration, marami kayong magagawang milagro. Sabi ni Ma'am John, if we continue to discuss because we learn from each other, and I believe many government officials, including Alipores ni Tambak, are also listening to your live. That's how they get the ideas too. Yes, but then it also sends them a message, and we're sending this message now. Mga sir, I still believe that you're honorable. Pero at some point, your position will not hold. Kung sa tingin ninyo, that just because ang dami-dami ninyo nakahawak dyan sa reins of power, it doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever and that people will take this sitting down. Unfortunately for you, may 1987 Constitution, and in that Constitution, merong protectors ang mga taong bayan. And we won't make a secret of the fact that we know who the protectors are. All we have to do is be brave. Kami, on our part. Kayo, how will history judge you? Yun yung problema, yun yung ano din nun eh. Si President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. was always worried about how he would look in history. Kaya nga nung nagkakaroon na ng EDSA, nagkakagulo na, the one thing he would not do was harm the people. Kasi alam niya na wala nang laban yung kanyang mga descendants na ipagtanggol yung pangalan niya kapag direkta ng sinaktan nila ang taong bayan. So, but now, you don't have to even physically harm us. Ito yung paggamit ng mga trolls na sisiraan nila reputasyon mo, sisiraan kanila, sasabihin ganito ginagawa niyan, itong taong to, masama itong taong to, real or imagine, yan po ang gagawin nila, maninirang pulis sila, gagawa at gagawa sila ng paraan. Noong one of these days, may kwento ako how they already tried to do that to me. Right? And will not be surprised if they will try to do the same. Again, kaya lang I've been in this before, hindi ito first time tumutol ako sa isang administrasyon o sa isang gobyerno. Nagkamali po sila. Tahimik lang po akong nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno. Tahimik lang po akong ginagawa ang trabaho ko nung ako yung inalis. At isang taon akong nanahimik after umalis ako. Nung hinabol pa nila po na nandun ako, hinabol pa ako sa aking pribadong trabaho, dyan na tayo magkakaproblema. Diba? Diyan tayo kasi maliwanag na kung ano yung oppression dito. At wag sana nilang iisipin na kung hindi ako nagsalita tungkol dun sa mga pangyayaring na pag-aalaman ko o alam ko from personal knowledge, na hindi yan, just because I did not speak before doesn't mean I will not speak at a future time. I will. Especially if you push me to the wall. Right now, ang ginagawa ko is giving my opinions and telling people what lies in the law and how these things can be supported by the facts in the law. Alam nyo, magkaibigan kami ni sino kasama natin sa tambayan? Glenn. Magkaibigan kami ni Attorney Glenn, and I have to admit, mas malakas ang loob ni Attorney Glenn. Gayon pa man, wag sana nilang intayin na pumatas kami. Because we're friends and we both know how to do this. This isn't our first rodeo. Kumbaga, I have may mga attempts na dati sa akin na i-disappear ako. Okay? I'm just really, alam niyo yun, sinasabi ng may kasabihan, God protects the children and the insane. So, kung hindi man ako child, posibleng I'm nuts for speaking out against the government when I already have a comfortable life. So, no. Kumbaga, I could very well have remained silent, and in fact, I fully supported the government long after I had left. Because, let's face it, there are good people in government. Solid people who just do their jobs. Sila po yung parati kong iniisip, yung mga naiwan kong mga tao doon, whom I did not appoint hindi ako nagdala sa kanila sa gobyerno, and yet they remain faithful in upholding the ideals of government service. Sila po ang inaalala ko na nandyan pa sila. Pero sa araw-araw nararamdaman ko na pati sila namimeligro. And we must at some point have to protect the ordinary citizen. Yung mga taong walang kalaban-laban, pag sila na po ang tinreten with the loss of their livelihood, with the loss of their reputation, with unfair cases that are going to be filed against them. Diba? Yung mga ganyan, we have to watch out for that. So, parang inaano ko dito, itong mga trolls, you're really going to have to give up the ghost. I know na trabaho po ninyo yan, but at some point, kailangan niyo pong mamili. Trolls, ha? Ito, sinasabi ko sa inyo, I don't want to be against you. I don't want for you to have to live in a world that is going to change. Where hindi kayo, hindi mga amo ninyo ang impact. Hindi po ganun kadali yan. So, rethink what you're doing. I get it, you need the money. I get it. Sige, tanggapin nyo yan. Pero in the end, alam nyo na mali sa inyo. Alam nyo yan. Huwag sana po kayong manatili dyan sa lugar ninyo. Kasi magbabago din ang mundo. If not sooner, it will be later. Pero what will you have been? What is your role in history? At least yung mga tao na nandito, alam nila. Alam nila kung saan sila papanig. Kung sinong mananaig pagdating sa sulatan na ng kasaysayan natin. Sabi ni Lucky Sanakaw, Marcos' name is painful to hear, but now BBM's name is unbearable. Sabi ni Gina, so true, ang mga walang kalaban-laban ay dinidiin nila. Ang mga trolls ay kailangan makinig sa kanilang konsyensya kung meron pa sila. Dahil ang kinikita nila ay hindi kapantay na mangyayari sa mga anak nila in the future. Totoo yan. So, but I want everybody to treat these trolls with compassion. Just block and delete. Do not engage. Kasi alam nyo, sa totoo lang, trabaho lang eh. Makapit na lang sa patalim yan. Paano pa sila kikita? Iba yung committed. Yung mga trolls na binabayaran lang, huwag na natin silang awayin. In the end, makakasamahan pa rin natin sila. Para doon naman sa mga committed, well, if you are running on government money, then you are fair game. Diba? Kami, pribado kami. Walang nagpupondo sa amin. Oh, diba? Let's see. Hindi naman tayo nag-aano dito, and it's no longer about the Duterte success. It's about good governance. It's about how our people are going to hold body and soul together when prices are rising in spite of the fact that inflation is going down. Kahit bumaba pa ang presyo ng crudo sa world market, tumataas pa rin sa atin. Ang mahal ng kuryente. Paano nila i-justify? So, ito, magaling si Ma'am Christine. Sabi niya, that really gets my goat. All salaries are highly likely the people's money kasi walang resibo. I will never believe in personal money while liquidation by Kong signature. Hindi mo pera yan. I agree. So ito, ulitin ko ha, we must deal with our fellow men with compassion, with our countrymen with compassion. Even if they are on the other side, remember that we are here to convince. We're not here to fight them. Parang yung mga sundalo natin, they don't really want to turn their arms against us. Kahit nasabihin pang lumalabag sa batas o nag-challenge ng government authority, they don't want to do that. And we should not also. We should not want to do that. We are here to make sure to protect all our countrymen kahit nandun pa sila sa kabilang side. Lahat tayo entitled to that kind of protection. So, wag na nating awayin yung mga trolls, block, delete. Pag inaway kayo on another side, dead ma, block nyo pa rin. Diba? So what? Let them talk. We don't care as long as they don't stop us from talking. So, talk, post, put your comments in mass media, dun sa mga comment sections ng major media, the Inquirer, the Star, and all of that, and in television stations, manood tayo ng mga programs ng SMNI, kahit hindi na kayo nanonood, basta naka-view lang, kung natutulog tayo, naka-on yung YouTube nila, and so on, nagdadagdag yung hits nila. We can show support. We can keep on keeping on with this. Okay. Hindi pwedeng ignore lang, kailangan i-block naman. Kailangan mawalan sila ng pagkakataon na gamitin ang mga platforms natin in order for them to spread their lies or to spread their black propaganda. Deny natin sila ng platform. Deny it. Share yung mga live na gusto nyo, sharing sa akin, yung kay Sas, yung kay Joey, yung kay Maharlika, and so on. It upsets them. Also, we don't have to, hindi kailangan bagdagulan. State your truth and then get out. Simple lang. Hindi na kasi engaging ang kailangan. Gusto nilang engage para tumaas din yung hits nila, no? State your truth. If you want to engage, do it on your own walls. Para dun pupunta yung mga hits, hindi dun sa mga ibang tao. But state your truth. So maraming salamat sa pagsubaybay ngayon. Magla-live pa rin po tayo mamaya if I'm not, if I'm free. Okay? So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Remember kung ano yung background ng lahat ng ito. We have to keep on keeping on about people's initiative. Because even if hindi pa nila itutuloy yan, we know that they are trying to put us as they are trying to do this in secret or relative secrecy because that's the only way they're going to win it. And once they are sitting, once we allow them an opportunity for greater number of days na nakaupo sila, maggamit sila ng pera ng bayan, it's, parang pinagpuan natin ang sarili natin, ang future natin, ang generations to come. Ang mantra natin, mahal ang pagkain, tubig, kuryente, internet, transportation. Anong ginawa ninyo para doon? May epekto ba? Ang inuuna nila, People's Initiative. Inuuna nila, supposedly FDI. Kung may problema pala ang FDI, biyahe kayo ng biyahe. Sinasabi ninyo, naghihikayat kayo ng mga investors at mga pledges. Biyahe kayo ng biyahe, kulang pala ang ating saligang batas para doon. Yan lang po, simpleng-simple lang po ang ating panunggaling sa mga yan. So muli, maraming salamat. Huwag pong kalimutan, like, share, follow, subscribe. So dun sa mga nasa TikTok, yung next live, most likely meron na uling comments. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat. Let's just keep on keeping on. Ingatan ng sarili. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your health. Kayo ng bayan, may mga dadating pa rin na mga issues. So keep on keeping on. Huwag pong mawawalan ng loob. Huwag pong very few get the opportunity to stand up and fight for their country, even if the fight is no longer the same as it was in 1898, di ba? Iba yun. Iba yung paraan ng paglaban ngayon. Ngayon, it is a battle for information and our tools are our words. So keep on talking. Keep on fighting the good fight. This is how we win it. Maraming salamat. We'll see you again soon.